Ladies and ladies and gentlemen from different parts of the world, just want to send my salutation to the different students in different parts of the world. Welcome to my channel, and just want to speak to you to say before you start anything, please subscribe to this channel. You can see there is a button there. Just go there and make sure you subscribe. We are going to look into the function of DNA. So in our earlier program, we looked into the function, the what DNA stands for, which is the deoxyribonucleic acid. I talked about the location of DNA. We said DNA is located in the nucleus, DNA is located in mitochondria, and also DNA is located in chloroplasts. So for today, I'm going to look at the function of DNA. Now, listen to what I'm going to tell you. Nuclear DNA, because I talked about different types of DNA. Now, what you call nuclear DNA is the one that controls the process of protein synthesis. Now, listen very carefully what I'm going to talk about. When you talk about the process of protein synthesis, did you know that we've got different types of proteins that are needed by your over 10 trillion cells in your body? You see, your human body is made up of billions upon billions of cells. Now, for you to survive as a human being or even a plant, there are a lot of processes that are taking place, within those cells. And one thing which is needed the most by your cells, it is proteins, because proteins are needed to repair your tissues. There are moments when, for instance, you've injured yourself, so it's your proteins, they assist in the repairing of those, tissues. Not on that, proteins are also very important because you're going to discover that your cells, they die. Do you know that actually cells, they only live about 3 to 6 months? Do they even reach 6 months? It's about 3 months. So you need production of new cells, from time to time so that you don't die. Because, if the production of your cells, or even in the plants, you have seen in those, the meristems, where in the younger plants, they are continuously production, or growth cells and all that. So when you talk about the nuclear DNA, this is the one that assists to synthesize the types of proteins that are needed. Now, let me explain to you how this take place. I'm going to give you a simple example. The different types of proteins, for example, maybe keratin. Keratin, but it's very important for your skin. So your skin is keratinized because you need keratin, for your tissues, for your cells in your skin. So there is a protein, for instance, keratin. So let's imagine maybe you do not have enough keratin, because keratin is needed in the production of your skin, in the production of nails, in the production of hair, etc. So meaning, when your body is got a deficiency, maybe there's a lack of the production of keratin, it simply means DNA will send a command, which in a layman's language will say DNA will send a messenger, and that messenger is the one whom you call messenger RNA. So you come across what is called messenger RNA. Why is DNA called DNA the code of life? Because it has got different types of codes, that are needed in the production, for example, of keratin, the production maybe of collagen, the production of myosin, all these different types, maybe histone, different types of proteins that are needed by your cells, needed by your body. So DNA is the master, is the boss, so it's the one that will determine which type of protein need to be synthesized. So DNA will send a signal, it will send a messenger with specific instruction to say, go out of the nucleus, because remember, nuclear DNA is found in the nucleus. So it simply means that the nuclear DNA will give specific instruction to messenger RNA. So go to cytoplasm. Now, what is that? We are talking about the cell. Think if you look into the structure of the cell, there is the nucleus. So in the nucleus, that's where you find the nuclear DNA. Then nuclear DNA, which is in the nucleus, will send messenger RNA. Now, messenger RNA start from the nucleus, but will be sent out. It's like you are inside of the nucleus, but I'm sending you. You must go to cytoplasm. To do what? At cytoplasm, there is a site which we call the ribosome, which is the actual site, where proteins are synthesized, proteins are manufactured, etc. So when messenger RNA, now you see, now we are talking about RNA. In other words, DNA makes RNA. Did you pick what I just said? DNA makes RNA. It shouldn't be the other way around, where RNA is the one making DNA. For example, when the HIV virus goes in our blood, in our human body, it has got bad manners. What it does is that, you see, it got change your system. Then RNA is the one that starts producing, DNA. This is why medical doctors, scientists, they went back to the laboratories. They came up with a medication which you call ARV, antiretroviral. What does the word ant mean? Against, retro means we are against this reverse caused by the viruses, ARV, antiretroviral. So those medication, we are saying, no, we are against you, HIV, the human immune, So what you are doing, we are against, we want the body to continue, DNA, continue the production of RNA. That's why when a person starts taking those medications, they start getting fine again. They start getting better. We are not saying that they are cured, no, but at least the person can continue surviving for the next 20, 30 years, 40 years, and all that, etc. You saw before that, a lot of people are dying, HIV and all that. So meaning, messenger RNA is made by DNA and will be sent to go to the ribosome with specific information to say, go and begin the process of manufacturing, of this type of a protein. So maybe we needed keratin, maybe we needed myosin, maybe we needed collagen, maybe alanine, etc. So depending, so please take note of this. We've got different types of proteins. So you need to move away from a mind which just proteins and you end there. No. What type of a protein are you talking about? So we've got different types. And the one that determines which type is going to be manufactured is DNA. So this is why we say DNA is the code of life, because, without protein, you can't survive. Your body needs proteins, because do you know that, for example, your enzymes are hormone in nature. What did I say? Enzymes are protein in nature, So those hormones, I'm confusing myself for nothing. Hey, let's start. I said to you, enzymes are protein in nature. But do not the hormones in our body are also protein in nature. We've got different types of hormone. Testosterone, you're going to learn about more progesterone. Later on, you're going to start learning about, when you go into reproduction, we're going to look into different types of hormones that are needed or produced by your body. In fact, there's even a topic itself, under the endocrine system, where we're going to study, the production of different of those hormones, those chemical messengers that are produced in one place but they act somewhere else. So we're going to learn into that. Even sperms are protein in nature. So you can see the importance of protein. So we need different types of proteins. So DNA, it will make, messenger RNA and send messenger RNA out of the nucleus to say, go to the cytoplasm. There is a place which we call ribosome. that is the actual place, where protein synthesis, the production. And protein synthesis, by the way, is also going to be a topic. So we're going to learn protein synthesis as a topic on itself. So again, it's going to be amazing, going to be superb. It will be awesome. You're going to start learning, and all the phobia, the fear that you have concerning your studies, your education, just need to get out of you, you see. So once you begin to understand how does DNA works, so I told you it is the one which control the synthesis. So synthesis means production or to manufacture. I hope you are picking those points. So it means it is responsible for the process, whereby the different types of proteins that are going to be needed are being, synthesized, are being produced, this and that. Then the next point, very, very important. DNA, nuclear DNA, also transmit hereditary characteristics from parents to offspring. Now, that is a big, big engine, that point, I said the nuclear DNA, it also, it's the one that transmits the hereditary characteristics, the things that a son or a daughter is going to inherit from the father, which is your paternal, and the things that you're going to inherit from your mother, which is your maternal. So later on, again, those are topics. So of course, we're going to look into, issues of how did you inherit certain, characteristics. So the time when we shall be studying genetics, that's why we're going to learn those stuff. So in genetics, we're going to explore all those topics. How did you find yourself so handsome like myself? How did you find yourself so black like myself? How did you find yourself with a skin which is dark? How did you find yourself with a skin which is light, It is, how did you find yourself with blondie hair? How did you find yourself with brown eyes? It's because of DNA. DNA is responsible to transmit, those characteristics, from parents to offspring. So this is why we use DNA to detect who is your father. So there are sometimes, men, they are so quick, you see, to impregnate, and they are so quick to reject the pregnancy. So we can use DNA test, because a child has gotten, certain characteristics. In particular, a child will get, 23 chromosomes from each parent. So it's a pair. So your mother will donate 23 chromosomes, your father 23 chromosomes, 23 plus 23, 46. So your body is got, each cell, your cells have got 46 chromosomes. So each and every cell must be packaged, with 46 chromosomes. So I hope you are picking and understanding, those points. So DNA, one, we said, is responsible for the process of protein synthesis, manufacturing different types of proteins that are needed by your body, needed by plants. It is different types of proteins. So I said to you, we've got different types. So when you talk of proteins, please stop this thing of thinking like, oh, protein is just one thing. No, we've got different types. And it is DNA that determine which type, of a protein is to be manufactured. I hope you're understanding and picking those points. Then we also said DNA is responsible for the transmission, the passing on of characteristics, from father to the son or to the daughter, from mother to son and daughter. So everything that a child, is going to inherit from the parents, they came, what did I say? Yeah, a child is going to inherit from the parents. It's because of DNA. So it's responsible for all that. So I hope you are picking and understanding those points. In terms of the structure of DNA, in our earlier lesson, we talked about the structure of DNA. I told you DNA and RNA, they are made up of three parts because they come from the segments that we call nucleotides. So a nucleotide, is a building block. So you need nucleotide to make DNA. Can I repeat? You need nucleotides in order to build DNA. It's not possible to have DNA without nucleotides. So the nucleotides, you see, they are building blocks. And you find that your human body is got almost 6 billion different types of nucleotides. For example, when we are studying what we call the genome project, where you have to map all the gene in the body because we need to find where each and every gene is located and what are their functions, because we need to know. That is the essence of you going to school. So once you begin looking into the gene, you need to find out where is this gene located, the location we call the locus, or loci, in case it is on different position. Then when we go there, we need to find their different function. So scientists, medical doctors, when they are studying for those 7 years or more, etc., they want to know so that when we are going to assist our brothers and sisters who are maybe in different fields, who are not nurses, who are not medical doctors, who are not maybe scientists whatsoever, we need to know. So we talked about the functions of DNA, the structure of DNA, and the natural shape of DNA, which we call the double helix. So in case you go somewhere, you find, double helix. That's the structure of DNA. That's the name. So the double helix, you see, is the shape, that structure. I told you it looked like, something like a twisted ladder. So that's how it looked like. So in case you are studying the segment of DNA, etc., take note of that. Then what is a gene? We need to also to ask ourselves that simple question, because when you say genetics, gene, genetics, gene, you see? So when you are studying genetics, you can see that there's the word gene. So gene, genetics, so you need to know what is a gene. A gene is a small segment. The word segment means a small portion. So within the DNA, there are small segments, small portion that are responsible for the different characteristics, that you observe, such as your skin color. Oh, who determine your skin color? It's your genes. Who determine your height, whether you're going to be tall, you're going to be short, this and that? It's your genes, So that's why when we are saying DNA is the code of life, you must begin to understand what does it mean, DNA, the code. It's like it has got the password, how you're going to look like, where you're going to be short, you're going to be tall, just got all those different aspects. So DNA is the one, that contain those different types, DNA is the one that have got genes. So those genes, we call them, the small portion, the small segment of DNA that are responsible, for the different characteristics that we observe in organisms. Now, when we say we observe in organisms, it could be plants, even plants. Plants have got different colors. Why are some plants have got yellow flowers, others have got purple, have got different, because of gene. So genes, ladies and gentlemen, they contain, those important messages, that have to be transmitted to a plant, transmitted to your human body. So you, as a male or as a female, so before you could give birth, think of this, for instance, when the process of spermatogenesis is taking place, the process whereby sperms are processed, or genesis, where the female eggs are made. Every time you find that each and every sperm cell is going to be what? To be packaged, So begin to understand these are the ones that contain all those characteristics, which are very, very important. So I hope you are picking and understanding those points. So gene are the smaller portions of the DNA the deoxyribonucleic acid. So we've got DNA, which is the deoxyribonucleic acid. Then we've got RNA, which is the ribose nucleic acid. So take note of those two nucleic acid. Who discovered the structure of the DNA? I mean, you are going to be thinking about guys such as James Watson, you know, you're going to think about Francis Crick and maybe Maurice Wilkins, you know, without forgetting our mother. Is it Franklin? I need to check her name. I'm forgetting the name, but I'm going to explain to you. So you must also begin to understand that actually no one has ever seen the structure, how DNA look like. So what we have is actually just a theory. So when you see that structure of DNA, it doesn't mean that there's any human being who has ever seen, you know. So it's just some scientists, you know, they went in the laboratories, they began to put up, you know, construction, they constructed some models, etc. You know, scientists, they normally put up, you know, scientific model that will show you how something look like. So the knowledge that we have today about DNA, how it came about, is simply a theoretical. So it's not something, you know, which to say any human being has ever seen, you know, actually how does DNA look like. So just something, you know, it is. So it comes from the scientist, which is James Watson. I think when they started working together, James Watson, I think he was an American guy. He was just about maybe 21 to 23. Then he was working with a British, you know, Francis Crick, who was a little bit older. So they are the one, you know, were trying to come up with the construction. Then there was this guy, Maurice Wilkins. Now, you know, this guy, Maurice Wilkins, is a character. He was working with a female, with another woman by the name of, I think she is Rosalind Franklin. Yes, I think that's her name, Rosalind Franklin, if I'm not mistaken, you know. So it was Rosalind Franklin who was coming up with pictures of how does DNA look like. But this guy was stealing the pictures, and he went and shown Francis and James the pictures. So then they came up with an idea. Oh, DNA looks like this, you know. So it is a very interesting history how they discovered DNA, this and that. So in our next, we're gonna be looking into RNA. Okay, so we shall look into the ribonucleic acid. But let's first, you know, take a short break. Please don't forget to join me on this